l'impératif, or the command form of verbs. The imperative form of the verb is used to give orders and make suggestions. We see this and hear this often in class. Like, for example, the sentence, lisez les phrases. You might have seen this on workbook pages before. It means read the sentences. Or you've probably heard me say, allez au tableau, go to the board. Or here's a suggestion, parlons après l'école, let's talk after school. All of these are either a command or a suggestion. The imperative form uses only the to, the vous, or the nous present tense forms of verbs. So if you want to tell somebody to do something or make a suggestion, you'll just use that form of the verb. The only exception is that if you're going to use an ER verb, you'll drop the S in the to form, and the same goes for the verb aller. You'll drop the S in the to form as well. So if I'm talking to one person and I want to say, speak in French, I would write it as parle en français. Typically, the to form of the verb parler ends in ES, but since this is a command, I drop the S and I just write parle. Here's another example. If I'm talking to one person and I say, go to the board, then I would drop the S in va. It still sounds the same, but in writing I would drop the S in va and just write va, V-A. Imperative commands do not use subject pronouns. The same goes for English. So we really form our commands pretty much the same in English as we do in French. So if I want to tell somebody, watch TV, just like in English, I don't use the subject. Here, you can tell I'm talking to more than one person because I'm using the vous form. And I'm saying, regardez la télé. The subject is implied. Here's an example of a negative command. Again, I'm talking to more than one person, but a subject is not there. Just like in English, if I said, don't forget your homework, I don't have a subject in there, I just have a verb. I also want you to take a second to note that the ne and pas goes around the verb just like it does in any other subject. N'oubliez pas les devoirs. Don't forget your homework. Now, since we're talking about reflexive verbs in this chapter, I need to make sure you understand how to write a command with a reflexive verb. That reflexive pronoun has to be incorporated somehow. So if it is an affirmative command where you're telling someone, do this, you're going to hyphenate the verb and the pronoun. If you're talking to one person, it would look like this, couche-toi. If you're talking to more than one person, couchez-vous. If you're making a suggestion and you're saying, let's do this, couchons-nous. So here I'm telling one person, go to bed. More than one person, go to bed. Or let's go to bed, couchons-nous. You can see the verb is hyphenated with the pronoun. For negative commands, ne and pas are going to surround the pronoun and the verb. So if I want to tell one person, don't go to bed, it would look like this, ne te couche pas. If I'm talking to more than one person, ne vous couchez pas. So ne and pas surround both that reflexive pronoun and the verb. And once again, there's no subject in the command. Now, let's look at those pronouns me and te. Remember how they're used in statements. If I want to say, he calls me, the word me is used in front of the verb to say me. If I'm saying, I am talking to you, the word te is used for you in front of the verb parle. Well, in commands, me is going to be the word moi. So that first word, me. Moi is what you're going to use in an affirmative command to tell somebody to do something that uses the pronoun me. Toi is what you're going to use for you, like te in that statement. So if I want to say, call me, it would look like this, téléphone-moi. I've hyphenated the pronoun and the verb. If I wanted to use a reflexive verb, dépêche-toi. I've hyphenated the verb dépêcher with the pronoun toi. Now in negative commands, you're going to use me and te, like you do in statements. So if I want to say, don't call me, ne me téléphone pas. The me goes in front of the verb, and ne and pas surround both the pronoun and the verb. For a reflexive verb, if I wanted to say, don't get up early, ne te lève pas. Te goes in front of the verb, and ne and pas surround it. So you can see affirmative commands and negative commands use a different word for me and you. So with reflexive verbs or object pronouns in commands, the reflexive pronoun is going to go in the same place that object pronouns would go. So here's just some formulas for those of you who really like to write formulas in your notes. If it's an affirmative statement where you're saying to someone, do this, it's going to be verb hyphen pronoun. So for a reflexive verb like get up, levez-vous, or with a pronoun like to say finish it, finis-le. A negative command is going to start with ne, have the pronoun, whether it's a reflexive pronoun or an object pronoun, the verb, and then pas, and then there could be something else in the rest of the statement. Like, ne vous levez pas, don't get up, or don't finish it, ne le finis pas. Okay. This is just a little bit of extra that I don't know that we're going to use too much in French too, but I know you'll probably come across it from time to time, so I would really like it to be in your notes. The verbs être and avoir are irregular in the imperative form since we only have 3 forms of the imperative, the tu form, the nous form, and the vous form. It's not a whole lot to remember, but the imperative forms of the verb avoir are a, ayant, and ayez. The imperative forms of the verb être are sois, soyons, and soyez. So here's some examples. If I wanted to say, let's have some cake, ayons du gâteau. Or if I wanted to tell somebody, be nice, sois gentil. So you figure out which, if you're talking to one person, more than one person, or making a suggestion, use that form, and then finish your statement. Okay, so I'd love to have you try to do some practice in your notes just to see if you've got the idea of it. So I have 3 statements here, and I want you to use the statements about what Paul wants to do or does not want to do to make the command, do this, or in the second and third sentence, don't do this. So I'd love for you to pause your notes, take these statements, make them commands, and then press play and check your answers. Alright, so if you have tried these on your own and you'd like to check your answers, let me go through these answers with you. So in this sentence where it says Paul wants to brush his teeth, if we're going to tell him, brush your teeth, it would look like this. We would just write brosse in the tu form minus the s, hyphen, toi, and then les dents would follow. If Paul doesn't want to eat a salad and we want to say don't eat it, we would start with ne, then our pronoun voilà, and then the verb mange, again tu form but drop the s, and then pas, don't eat it. And then if we wanted to say to Paul, don't get up, because Paul does not want to get up, we would say ne lève. I'm sorry, you would not. Let me change that. You would say ne te lève pas.